right, so let's talk about the forearm, and then eventually the mnemonic that I mentioned up there. So here's your forearm, right? The bones of your forearm. Remember, anatomical positioning is incredibly important. So here, when we kind of put the humerus in place, you have the trochlea making contact with the ulna, and you have the capitulum making contact with the radius, right? Now, what we're going to see is this radial head is actually free to move around a bit, right? And we're going to see how the interaction between the radius and the ulna also allows for that movement. It's very hard to dislocate the ulna, right, away from the humerus. It's very easy to dislocate the radius from the humerus, right? So all it takes to dislocate the radius a little bit is to pull hard on the arm, and that's it. Now, most commonly, it happens to little kids as they're having a tantrum, right? Let's say you're at Walmart, it's about Christmas time, and they want their toy, and you need them to get out of the Walmart because you've been there for 3 hours, right? So what happens is you're pulling on the arm and tugging on their hands, and they are obviously little kids, so they're going to try to lean over to the other side, try to run away from you. If they pull hard enough, and you pull hard enough, you can dislocate that radius, right? The good news about it is all we do in terms of realigning it is pull it back out, and then the actual tendons and ligaments guide it back in, right? I've got a lot of friends that are pediatricians, and it's one of those rare instances where without pain, you can you can fix a problem immediately, and it doesn't cause any further pain in the child. Now the problem is, right when they see that, they almost always have to report that. So it's one of those where, right, DCFS might be coming in and asking questions, right, as a result of it. So that is one of those that does happen, and every now and then you do hear of it as being just kind of like a precursor for DCSF looking into that issue. Now, let's take a look at the very first one. I'm going to separate it, and that's the ulna right here. Now, how can we tell the ulna versus the radius? Should be much easier than you can imagine, right? The ulna has this piece of bone sticking out of it. That is what we actually feel when you bend your elbow and you feel that piece of bone that kind of sticks out right here, right? That is part of the ulna. That's this part of the ulna called the olecranon process. So your ulna has a C-shaped region that completely encloses, when I show it this way, it completely encloses, right, the trochlea and the humerus. You can imagine now it's a pretty secure joint. Look at how close that is, right? And what happens is it really takes a violent trauma, really violent trauma, for you to dislocate the humerus, right? I saw a friend that happened to me when I was playing football in high school. Making a tackle, it was like a real important game, right? And I was making a tackle, I was diving to make a tackle, and I see my friend, and he's writhing in pain, and then I see his arm just kind of look funny, right? And we knew dislocated his elbow, but the next day when we look at the video, what happened was he was trying to make the tackle, his hand and his arm was straight, and he's kind of like putting his arm on the ground like this. And when I went in and make the tackle and finished off the tackle, my leg whiplashed against his arm, and it caused it to severely dislocate to the point where you needed to go to the emergency room right away to get it back into its normal positioning, right? It took that kind of violent trauma, right, to actually dislocate the humerus, yet it can get dislocated. So let's talk about the elbow joint right here. All right, so here on the top part is your olecranon process. Again, you should have a C-shaped combination of processes. The top of our C, olecranon process. The bottom of our C, down here, that's this area right here. This is called the coronoid process right here. All right, coronoid process. All right, and then what else? We should see a trochlear notch right here, but do I have it on your word list? Yeah. right? You can cross that one out, right? Right? You can cross out trochlear notch. It's really hard to really tag it deep inside. It's just this little line right here. Right? Again, coronoid process, olecranon. Cross out the trochlear notch. So I put one in and take one away. So we're even, right? Right. The next one is this kind of area that looks like it's been, a little piece of bone has been removed. It's a notch. That's where the radius, the head of the radius sits as it spins around. This is called the radial notch over here. That radial notch allows the head of the radius to spin. As the head of the radius spins, it allows us to supinate and pronate. Now, the last part of this, I want you to go and, right, you feel this area way on the bottom right here, right? It looks like a tooth region right here. This is called the scaphoid process right here. You can actually palpate this on the back right here. So if you feel this piece of bone on the back of your wrist, right? Let's take a look at this. That is what we're feeling. You can also feel it on the other side. It's a little bit more prominent on your radial side. So you have to add something. Right. So we do have the scaphoid process on there and the coronoid process. I don't have it on the other one. I won't have it. Okay. I don't think I have this on your word list for the ulno, right? So I won't add it on here. So just know the olecranon, coronoid process, radial notch, and obviously that's the name that this is an ulno. All right, the next one is a radius. The radius, you will see the top part that's flat. That's called the head of the radius. Then you see this real rough, thick area right here, right? This is called the bicep or radial tuberosity. So again, what did I mention before? Whoops, about when you have a real rough, thick area of bone. That's where some kind of muscle either inserts, where it kind of makes connection, or it originates, where it's anchored in place, right? This radial notch, or radial tuberosity, let me rephrase that. Radial or biceps tuberosity is where your biceps muscle inserts. So your bicep muscle allows us to flex our forearm, right? It's anchored in place. Its origin point is in the acromion process. Its insertion region, where it causes movement, that's the insertion region. It's in this radial tuberosity. So when you flex your biceps, what happens? You cause your forearm to move up, right? That's a movement we see. Radial tuberosity right here. As we move back, then you see this piece of bone. This is a styloid process, and you can see it, and you can feel it right here. And in some people, you can actually see it, right? Some bony prominence and sticking out over here. You should kind of palpate that, right? That's the styloid process of your radius. Now comes this over here, right? Now comes this area right here, which is this mnemonic, right? So long top part, here comes the thumb. So this mnemonic right here, about so long top part, here comes a thumb, right, refers to the arrangement of your carpal bones, right? So the arrangement of carpal bones, and this is a mnemonic that's actually pretty good, right? It's pretty good, and once I kind of go through it a few times, you guys all have a chance to kind of review it. Most people get this part correct because they put in so much time on it, right? So the mnemonic helps. And what we're going to do then is discuss it. I'm going to keep the radius here. I'm going to put the ulna over here so you can see how they should be resting with each other. Because Kind of move this around a bit like this. And what we're going to do next is put your hand right there. Right? Again, anatomical position. Right? We start over here. Here's a radius. So this is the very first bone we see. Now, anatomical position. This is my right arm. This is my right hand. How do I know this is my right hand? We know because we can count the number of bones on our fingers. All right? Anatomical position, your thumb is on the outside. So I should be able to count the number of bones on your thumb. If you look at your thumb, and I want you to look at the creases in your fingers, right? When you look at the crease of all my other fingers, right, you see 1, 2, and 3 creases. That corresponds to 1, 2, and 3 bones in my finger, even in my pinky, right? So I'm going to have phalanges, proximal, intermediate, distal phalanges. I should see 3 bones sticking out right there, just from the phalanges. Even better yet, you have another bone right here, deep inside, called the metacarpals. So all your 4 fingers right here, starting with your index all the way to your pinky, you should have 1 metacarpal, 3 phalanges, 4 bones total. The only one that's different is this. Look at my thumb. I only have 1, 2 creases. That's it. Why? I only have 1 distal phalange, 1, all right, proximal phalange, and 1 metacarpal. So my thumb only has 3 bones total, where all the other digits or all the other fingers have 4. So let's take a look. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, this is my pinky then, right? How about another side? 1, 2, 3. That's my thumb, right? So we know this is the radius side. So even if I don't have your hand with any of the bones, I know your thumb side is always radial side, right? Why? Where do you take your radial pulse? Right next to your thumb. So we know this is the right side. We always start on the thumb side. We always start at the distal one, right? These higher, bigger group of bones. There's 2 rows that we need to know. And it starts here, right? So long, top part. So this is how it looks. So, scaphoid, long, right? Lunate, top. This area over here is called the triquetrum. Part is this piece of bone, and it's actually 2 separate bones. The triquetrium and the pisiform are actually 2 separate bones. Now, with these plastic bones, they fuse them together so they don't break apart, but they're 2 separate bones. Again, so long, top part. Scaphoid, lunate, triquetrium, pisiform on top. Here comes the thumb. So here is hamate. Hamate looks like a little handle right here. It's pretty big. Right over here, you can see it a little bit better. Here's a hamate. Then this comes is a capitate right in the middle, the biggest one. The trapezoid, smallest one. And then thumb, trapezium, which is next to your thumb. Again, right? So long, top part. Scaphoid, lunate, triquetrum, pisiform. Here comes the thumb. Hamate, capitate, trapezoid, trapezium. Trapezium is right next to the thumb. It kind of almost rhymes. Trapezium and thumb. Kind of. Not really. All right? If you say it quick enough, and maybe it kind of rhymes. All right? Again. All right? Now, this is anatomical position. We never look at the other side like this. Right? Not when we're learning it. The reason why is this. If I have it and I'm looking with your thumb and your hands in a pronated position, right here, I don't see the actual pisiform sticking out. See that? so you don't really see that one bone. So now I might put a number like this, a number down inside here and here. Why? Because it sticks better, right? Just logistically, it sticks better just putting a piece of tape on this side, right? So what I want you to do then, if I put a piece of tape here, is I flip it back around, right? So you can see, all right, that's a capitate. That's a hamate, right? With a hamate, it's really hard to put a piece of tape here. There's just not enough surface area for it to stick, right? So I usually put it in an area that's a little bit flatter on the other side. So what do? Just flip it around. You see the handle of the hamate right there. We can feel these. So what I want you to do is, all right, kind of palpate right here, right at the base of your pinky. If you palpate that area, you'll feel the hamate and part of the pisiform here, right? On the other side, you should feel part of the trapezium as well, sticking out over here, right? So you should feel these two areas that are part of our carpal bone. You guys have heard of the carpal tunnel. Most of you heard of carpal tunnel syndrome. This is a carpal tunnel right here, right? So there's these bones right here stick up. See that? You have arteries, veins that go through these real narrow region to your fingers, the veins and then arteries as well as the median nerve, right? And now you have a real thick band of connective tissue covering that region up. So what happens when you type like this? You contract the muscles. As you contract the flexor digitorum muscles, those muscles have tendons that go into your fingertips right here. As you contract them and you're in this position, they start rubbing against each other, the tendons, causing inflammation and pain, right? It also that inflammation starts to trap the median nerve, all right? Now you have a lot of cells that shouldn't be there. It's trapping the median nerve, and now you start having carpal tunnel syndrome, right? What do we do with carpal tunnel syndrome? A brace that opens it up. All right, I'll stop right here.